the world poised to see the most anticipated movie of 2021, probably, the third installment, Spider-Man No Way Home, the news came that there's not only a fourth movie in line, but yet another trilogy, a continuation of the story. So with that in mind, we are here today to take a look at things and tell you everything we know about the state of the movie, the agreement, but also to make sense of this big announcement.
If the aliens come back, what are you gonna do?
Does anyone have any neighborhood questions?
The new Spider-Man Trilogy. Like any other thing in the world, this news is very exciting for many reasons, but it's bad for Spider-Man No Way Home, not entirely, but close to it. After Amy Pascal's announcement, we know that Tom Holland is here to stay for another 3 movies. The news thrilled many fans, especially after the news of him being pulled out of the MCU 2019, a thing that nearly happened, which would have erased the upcoming movie. The trilogy, according to our educated guesses, will be indirectly affected by this news, not in the script or anything like that, but in the perception of the movie itself, when it releases. After a divisive response given about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie, Kevin Feige was able to convince Sony to drop their plans for a sequel to that movie to both Marvel and Sony to share Spider-Man, a chain of events that brought Tom Holland's Spider-Man to the MCU, with him making his debut in the second installment of Captain America's movie Civil War. After this, Tom played his role 4 more times, 2 times in his solo movies, and the other 2 times in Marvel's biggest movies so far, Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame respectively. The 6th appearance of the character is seen in the latest iteration of the character in Spider-Man No Way Home, and before the threequel was even finished or released so to speak, Tom Holland's Spider-Man seems like the mainstay for yet another 4 to 6 years probably.
If something happens to me, could you please give this to MJ?
You're gonna make it back. You'll give it to yourself, okay? You got this.
Amy Pascal is the one to announce all of the 3 movies at once, who also said that Sony is planning on collaborating for at least one more trilogy with Holland's Spider-Man, and despite the non-defined plan for the trilogy itself, it was enough to get fans excited about what is in store soon. The news came as a surprise, as a 3rd solo movie was supposed to be the last outing for Tom Holland as part of the MCU, and instead joined Sony's Spider-Man Universe. But the news turned the tables, spiraling everything out of control, much like the expected debut of MCU's multiverse. Thus, the only kind of bad thing we think could have been avoided would be for the news to be announced after the 3rd MCU Spider-Man movie was released. On the other hand, it was interesting to see Amy Pascal casually drop this big news in the world. We're curious. Maybe that was the plan all along? Aside from the negative impact this news will have when the movie comes out, another tricky thing Sony didn't do is use the collaboration they have with Marvel, propelling their campaign even more. And they didn't manage to drum up hype for its comic book franchise, and although there were some bumps on the road at the beginning of the Marvel and Sony deal today, Kevin Feige seems very positive about it, the prospect of where it's taking them. With the latest announcement, even though it might only seem like a continuation of the story, there are a lot of stakes at hand. Like, what are the terms of it, and in the end, what does it mean for the future of our Spidey friend? Sony even renamed their spin-offs, with now all of them coming to become part of Sony's Spider-Man Universe, which became widely regarded as the first hint that the 2 studios, Marvel and Sony, extended their deal with the future of Tom Holland put at rest, moving a little bit away from the mainstream MCU and continuing his web-slinging into films in Sony's share of the deal.
You look really pretty.
Therefore, I have value?
No.
Deal explained. So what's the deal exactly? Well, at the beginning of the original deal, Marvel and Sony agreed on 5 outings of the character, the ones we mentioned above, and under the agreement, Marvel even produced a solo Spider-Man on behalf of Sony, with Sony receiving the profits, with Marvel gaining 2 more appearances from Spider-Man in their MCU, Spider-Man No Way Home, and a still unknown mystery Marvel movie, maybe Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, who knows? Seeing how connected the 2 are in the latest Spider-Man movie, it's the most reasonable conclusion. Since 2019, however, Sony was given the rights to integrate Tom Holland's Spider-Man into their universe, seeing how Spider-Man happens to be the only hero with the superpower to cross cinematic universes, Kevin Feige added.
Oh, great. No webs.
What a trilogy means for the Marvel-Sony deal. As we were all witnesses, the first trilogy focused on Peter Parker's life through high school, with him being a senior by the 3rd movie, so the likely thing would be for the next trilogy to be set during his time in college, with the supporting cast having some additions. The idea of illusion of change, pioneered by the legendary Stan Lee, sits comfortably in Marvel's lap, the best example between 2 stories from the Marvel comics and the next MCU Spider-Man trilogy. Pascal has not indicated whether Marvel will be able to use Spider-Man in more of their films under the terms of the revised deal, so something new would have to come out of it, with the sharing part of the contract lying at the center of it all. Thus, it's reasonable to assume that Marvel will still have the ability to use Tom Holland's Peter Parker in the future 3 iterations at least. This also fits with the remark of Avengers Endgame co-director Joe Russo, who said that Tom Holland is stepping into the role that Robert Downey Jr. once occupied for Marvel, which is the most favorite character, and in a lot of ways the soul of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, painting a bigger picture of just how important Spider-Man has become to the MCU's narrative in the future.
Edith, turn off the drones!
Biometric scan complete. Welcome back, Peter.
What the trilogy means for Venom and Sony's Spider-Man Universe. The implications of the new deal are difficult to predict when Sony's Spider-Man Universe is considered, but Sony exec Sanford Panich built upon Kevin Feige's comment, "There's a plan for the crossing of Spider-Man and the spin-offs, and from what we've seen so far, especially from the latest Spider-Man No Way Home movie, we'll not go into details, not wanting to spoil anything, we have a clear picture as to where the studios are headed, with even more being revealed to the public with the third MCU Spider-Man movie." This also proves that all the speculations about multiversal possibilities surrounding the character will come true, speculations which were raised by Spider-Man No Way Home and Venom Let There Be Carnage are true of Sony's Spider-Man universe being part of the same wider multiverse the MCU is creating at the moment.
Who else did you tell?
Okay, just Ned and MJ from my class, and maybe Ned told his girlfriend Betty, but that's it!
The pieces of the puzzle seem to be falling into place with each upcoming news coming out, and MCU's Peter Parker being closer and closer to the Sony films, with the upcoming Kraven the Hunter the key of it all. For that movie, we know that the movie will follow Kraven's Last Hunt storyline from the Marvel Comics as told by writer Richard Wenk. So if everything goes as planned by Sony, the hope they, and we have alike, will probably be a reality, with one of the most popular Spider-Man comic book stories of all time adapted for the big screen, we think. There's a lot to talk about, and all the changes that might occur in the upcoming years. Yes, you heard us, years, because it'll take that much time for another Spider-Man movie to be released, seeing how the latest one is released in December 2021. On a related note, tell us down in the comments below what are your thoughts on another 3 movies with this latest Spider-Man, but also which version of Spider-Man do you like the most? And also don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future.
We